My husband and I spent 11 years building something together. Every dollar saved carefully. Every sacrifice made together. Every dream discussed at our kitchen table late at night when the rest of the world was quiet. And it was just the two of us talking about the future we were going to have. $200,000. Then one afternoon I opened our home safe looking for an insurance document and found something that told me exactly where every single dollar had gone. And exactly who my husband had really been for the past 2 years. If this story breaks your heart, please like this video and subscribe to Her Words. What I found in that safe ended my marriage. And what happened after gave me back everything Scott thought he had taken. My name is Grace Mitchell. I am 38 years old and I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I am a registered nurse and I have been working at the same hospital for 12 years. I work long shifts and I do not complain about them because I genuinely love what I do. Taking care of people in their most vulnerable moments is not just a job to me. It is a calling. I was married to Scott Mitchell for 11 years. Scott owned a small construction company in Atlanta. He was hardworking and capable, and when we met I admired the way he built things with his hands. There was something deeply reassuring about a man who could look at an empty space and see exactly what it could become. I thought that said something meaningful about who he was. We got married when I was 27 years old in a small outdoor ceremony in Piedmont Park on a warm October afternoon. Just our families and our closest friends and the kind of simple happiness that you remember for the rest of your life. I wore my mother's veil. Scott cried when he saw me walking toward him. I thought that moment was the truest thing I had ever seen from another person. I think about that moment sometimes now and feel something I cannot fully name. Scott and we were two working people from ordinary backgrounds who understood that financial security did not come from luck. And patience and saying no to things you wanted today so you could have something better tomorrow. Every month a percentage of both our incomes went directly into a joint savings account. We never touched it. We lived modestly in a house that was smaller than what we could have afforded because we wanted to save the difference. For the kind of stability that meant neither of us would ever have to lie awake at night worrying about what happened if something went wrong. I checked it every month. I knew that number the way I knew my own name. $200,000. Our future. Our safety. 11 years of every sacrifice we had ever made together sitting in one account. About 8 months ago I started. The balance was lower than it should have been, not dramatically at first. I mentioned it to Scott, and he said he had pulled some money out for a materials order for a big job his company had just taken on. He said it would go back in within 2 weeks once the client paid the deposit. I believed him. That was the kind. 2 weeks passed. The money did not go back in. I asked Scott again. He said the client had delayed the deposit by a month. And every time I checked the balance was lower than the time before. Not dramatically. Not in one big withdrawal that would have been impossible to ignore. Just steadily and quietly lower. The way water disappears from a glass when you are not looking directly at it. By 6 months ago the account was down by $60,000. I sat at our kitchen table with my laptop and looked at that number for a long time. I asked Scott to sit down with me and go through it together. Everything explained away in his calm, certain voice. I looked at those numbers and something in me did not believe them. Not completely. Not the way I should have. But I could not point to a specific lie. Every explanation was plausible. So I closed the laptop and told myself I am trained to notice things other people miss. Small changes, patterns, things that do not quite fit. It is what I do every single day in that hospital. I should have trusted what I was noticing. 3 weeks ago, Scott told me he had a job site meeting in Savannah that was going to take 3 days. He packed a bag on a Thursday morning, kissed me goodbye at the front door, and drove away. I went to work. I did a full 12-hour shift. I came home to our quiet house and made dinner for one and tried not to think about the savings account. At about 9 that evening, I remembered we needed to renew our home insurance policy. I had been meaning to get the policy number for 2 weeks and kept forgetting. I went to the closet. I opened the safe with our combination. I moved aside the folder where we kept our passports and our mortgage documents and reached for the insurance folder. Tucked behind our insurance documents at the back of the safe was something that had no business being there. A small brown envelope. I do not know why I picked it up. Something made me. Some instinct that I have learned over 12 years of nursing to never ignore. I opened the envelope. Inside was a folded piece of paper, a printed document. I unfolded it slowly. It was a lease agreement for an apartment in Buckhead, one of the most expensive neighborhoods in Atlanta. The lease was in Scott's name. The lease had started 22 months ago. I stood in that closet holding that piece of paper and read every single line 3 times. Then I reached back into the envelope. There was more. Bank statements. Printed and folded carefully. Statements from an account I had never seen before. An account in Scott's name alone that I did not know existed. I started reading the transactions. Furniture stores, jewelry purchases, restaurant bills for 2, spa bookings, weekend hotel stays. In cities Scott had told me were work trips. Transfers from our joint savings account directly into this secret account. 60 transfers over 22 months. $194,000. I sat down on the floor of that closet because my legs stopped working. I kept reading. A photograph. Printed on regular paper like someone had printed it at home. Scott and a woman I had never seen before. Standing in what looked like the Buckhead apartment. Her arm around his waist. Both of them smiling. On the back of the photograph in Scott's handwriting were 4 words. Our place. Our life. I sat on the floor of that closet for a very long time. 11 years of our kitchen table conversations. 11 years of our future account. 11 years of every no we said to ourselves so we could say yes to something bigger. And he had built someone else an entire life with it. I put everything back in the envelope exactly as I had found it. Then I picked up my phone. Thomas Reed, built from that envelope over the next 2 weeks, left Scott Mitchell with absolutely nowhere to run. Lisa answered on the first ring. I told her everything in one breath. The safe, the envelope, the lease, the bank statements, the photograph, the 4 words written on the back in Scott's handwriting. Our place, our life. Lisa was silent for exactly 3 seconds. Do not confront Scott. Do not call him. Do not send a single text. She said, call Thomas Reed right now. Tonight. I asked her if it was too late to call an attorney at 9 in the evening. Lisa said, for this it is never too late. Thomas Reed answered his personal cell on the 3rd ring. She had used Thomas during her own divorce 4 years earlier, and she had his number saved under people I trust completely. Thomas listened to everything without interrupting once. When I finished, he said 3 things. He said, first, do not remove anything from that safe. He said, second, I need you to photograph every single document in that envelope exactly where it sits inside the safe before you close it again. He said, third, Scott cannot know you have found anything until I say so. I went back to that closet. I photographed everything. Every page of every bank statement. Every line of the lease agreement. Both sides of the photograph. The inside of the envelope. The position of everything inside the safe. Then I closed the safe. Then I went to the kitchen and made myself a cup of tea because I needed something to do with my hands. I know now that he was not in Savannah. He walked through the front door with his bag over his shoulder, talking about the job site and the drive home and asking what I wanted to do for dinner. He kissed me on the cheek and went upstairs to shower. I stood in the kitchen and listened to the water running upstairs. And I smiled at absolutely nothing for the first time in weeks. Because Thomas Reed had spent those 2 days building something Scott was never going to be able to walk away from. Thomas had used the financial documentation I photographed to trace every transfer from our joint savings account into Scott's secret account. He had also contacted the leasing office in Buckhead and confirmed the apartment lease. He had identified Vanessa Cole from the photograph using Scott's company's social media. She worked as a marketing consultant. She had no idea Scott was married. Thomas said the financial fraud alone gave us one of the strongest divorce cases he had seen in 15 years. He said Scott had not just cheated. He had committed financial fraud against his own spouse. That changed everything. Scott was served divorce papers on a Tuesday morning at his office, in front of his business partner and 2 employees. Thomas had suggested a private location. I had suggested the office. Scott called me 14 times in 40 minutes. I watched his name light up my screen 14 times and I did not answer once. He came home that evening white-faced and shaking. He stood in our kitchen and told me he could explain. He said Vanessa meant nothing. He said he had made a terrible mistake. He said 11 years meant something. I looked at him standing in our kitchen and I felt something I had not expected. Nothing, not anger, not sadness, not love, just a very clean and quiet nothing. I told him Thomas Reed would handle everything from this point forward. Then I picked up my keys and went to stay with Lisa. The divorce was finalized 5 months later. I received the house. I received full financial restitution for the $194,000 Scott had transferred from our joint savings. I received half of his business assets on top of that. Scott's business partner dissolved their partnership within weeks of the divorce filing becoming public. His reputation in Atlanta's construction community was destroyed completely. Vanessa Cole ended things the moment she discovered Scott was married. She sent me a single message through Thomas's office saying she was sorry and that she had been completely deceived. I believed her. Scott is currently renting a small apartment on the other side of Atlanta. He lost the Buckhead apartment when Vanessa left. He is managing what remains of his business alone. I heard through mutual friends that he tried to reach out to Vanessa multiple times after she ended things. She did not respond once. I wake up every morning in my house. I drink my coffee at the kitchen table where Scott and I used to talk about our future late at night. The future account is being rebuilt. Slowly and carefully. And completely on my own terms. Last month it crossed $50,000. I checked the balance on a Thursday evening after a long shift and I sat at that kitchen table and I cried. Not because of what Scott had taken, because of what I had already gotten back. Video a thumbs up and subscribe to her words for more real stories about real women who refuse to stay down. Leave a comment and tell me your story. This is her words, and your story always matters here.